What's up, guys? What's going on, man? I'm Paul. This is Pauline Theology's daily devotional, and we are going through the book of John, trusting in Jesus, learning about him, trying to figure out who he is. And there is no better way than reading the Gospel of John. And so that's what we're doing. We're in John chapter 1, verse 24 through 28. And so if you haven't checked out those pages yet, go ahead and stop the tape, see what it has to say, read, and we'll come back and answer the 4 questions. If you have, man, let's dive on into it. So what's going on is the question, and we got to catch up. They asked earlier, they had the Jews sent because obviously John's doing something, man. He's got something going on where they have to send a delegation out in order to see if what he's doing is authentic, if he is a true prophet, if he's the Messiah. Why? What is he? Who is he? That was the last one. Who is he? And now, after him emphatically answering that he is not the Christ or those other people that he's talking about, now they're like, well, how do you do what you do? And so they asked him. They says, let me talk about this setup real quick. Is that it talks about the Pharisees, and so these Pharisees are probably just not another people that came to ask more questions. It's probably the same group, but it is just saying that out of that group that came, that there were Pharisees in that group that's about to ask these particular questions. The book of John really doesn't dive into Pharisees and Sadducees like the other ones do. I think it's because of the fact that the Sadducees actually fell out. They were not even prominent or at all during the time of John writing this. And so he doesn't ever mention that or even describe the differences between them like you see in the other Gospels. But if you're wondering what the Pharisees are, they are a strict group of people that follow the law and the traditions of the elders. So they follow the law, but then they also follow like the traditions that have been placed upon the law to help us to do the law more efficiently, more better. And so, they're like a strict law adhering people that the people look up to because they follow the law so well. And so that's why they're testified here, is because they were still in continuance while John had wrote this. And the Sadducees, which we don't get to see in here, but are in other ones, if you're wondering who they only adhered to what was actually written in the book of Moses. And so that's the first five books of the Bible. And they did not adhere. They may have listened to or regarded the elder stuff of what they interpreted of the law, like the Pharisees followed those things to a T and believed them as law. But the Sadducees did not. They considered only the book of Moses to be of authoritative for them to do all the things that they do. And another thing is that they also, one of the things that the scripture says is that they didn't believe in the resurrection while the Pharisees did. So that's a little clue in on those two groups, just to let you know. But the reason, again, that we're bringing this up is because the fact that when we hear the word the Jews, in most cases, not all, but in most cases, during this gospel, it's going to be referring to the Pharisees or the Levites or the priests, people who have authority in the community of the Jews that understand the law and help others to walk in that law. So that's why we're kind of mentioning that. So when you see that the Jews again, then that is who they are talking about. Anyway, they said that there's some people out here, the Pharisees, and they ask him, hey, how are you baptizing them, man? If you ain't the Christ, you're not Elijah, you're not the prophet. How are you baptizing? Well, John answers, and he doesn't answer their question. He kind of turns it on them, man, because he doesn't want the focus on himself. He wants the focus on the one in whom the focus should definitely be on, which is the Christ. He says, I baptize in water. He says, but there's one that stands amongst you that you do not know. The one who was before me. He says, I'm not even worthy to tie the thong on his sandal, man. I'm not even worthy to untie the strap on his sandal. I'm not worthy even to bend down and tie his shoes up. It's basically what he's saying. And that's an important thing. Let me tell you a little bit about the culture back then to give you maybe a little bit of insight on how debased John is saying he is, how inferior John is saying he is, how low he's saying he is. In those times, man, it was and then one more thing also is that some believe that Jesus actually may have been a follower of John during this time, sitting under his tutelage. And so that's why in one sense he says that amongst you, in the midst of you right now stands one whom you do not know. And he's talking about the Messiah. And so he's talking about Jesus. Jesus is out in the crowds right now. You know what I mean? But anyway, um, the fact that he might have been one of his disciples, it was talked about in those times that disciples were to be as servants to their teachers, to do everything that they had asked them to do, except the task of a slave. And that is the task of tying or cleaning or even doing any kind of thing with someone's feet. So this is a demeaning task, and it's worthy only for slaves. So the thing is that a person who is supposed to be a servant to their teacher in every way doesn't have to do anything with their feet because of how detestable it is. But John here is saying that the opposite, saying like how the servant is supposed to do everything for the teacher except tying the shoes or messing with the feet. Well, John is like, supposedly, because he says the one who came before, he says I was before him. He says that he, as the teacher, is not even worthy to tie the shoe, a task that they don't even require them to do. But he says that he can't even do that, the job that they're not even required to do because it's so detestable. He can't even do that. And he's the teacher. He's the one who's supposed to be above. That's the distance. That is the chasm. That is how far greater that Jesus is in comparison to who John is. And they're worried or they're concerned about his authority to baptize, to do the things that he's doing, because he's not all of these people that they think he might be. They're concerned about him, but he's saying, you shouldn't be concerned about me because I'm trying to tell you about someone who is greater than me. I'm trying to point you to that person. I'm trying to testify to that person because he is incredibly, vastly, incomprehensibly greater than me. And it says he was doing these things on the other side of the Jordan in Bethany. So what does that mean about God? Well, it just talks about the supremacy of Jesus, the greatness of Jesus, the superiority of Jesus, that he is not even in a category that we are in. He is completely, wholly other. He is different than us. What's this say about man? I think it tells us that our focus should always be on the one. It should always be on Jesus, never on us. Even when we do great and mighty things, that the reason or the purpose or the power behind that action comes from Jesus. It is always to be a reflection of the glory of God, a reflection of the wonder of Jesus. And then second, I think the greatness of Jesus should be recognized. Man, as a person, as a human, we should recognize the greatness of Jesus. So how do we apply these truths to our lives today? Well, let's look at this great chasm that's between us. Let's see it and see it for what it is. Like, God is so superior to us. There is no reason or comprehension that he would decide to want a relationship with us. We are so lowly and debased. Now, I'm not trying to harp or bash or create a low self-esteem, but I do want us to recognize that, man, there is a chasm between the greatness of God and who we are. But that's the greatness of God, because he would still desire to have relationship with us, that he would love us and care for us. That's the beauty. And now that says something about us as well. It says something about God, obviously, when I say that we are so far away from him. It makes it seem like I'm trying to beat us up and say we're the worst things in the world. But because he desires relationship with us, that says about us that we are magnificent and wonderful. And so because of that, man, we should remember that, resonate that. So to apply, man, just think about that great chasm, man. Today, sit there, think about the great love that he has for us, and then our infinite worth because of that. Man, I appreciate you guys for listening, and I'll see you in the next episode.